Hey, it's Jacqueline from the CTS Sports Room, coming to you from my car. Because it's Christmas time, and my house is full of people, and I told them I was going grocery shopping, but really, I just needed a break. So I downloaded this new app that we just partnered with. It's Superdraft Pro. It is the future of fantasy sports. And you can play for cash, prizes, and experiences that money can't buy. Like the peace and quiet I'm getting right now. You can play for free, or you can get their non-gambling subscription. Either way, you can still win cash and prizes. If you want more information, my friend Kyle Murray is going to tell you about it.
It's not easy being the fastest quarterback you've never seen. I'll be right back. There's no quicker way to get into DFS. Play Superdraft today and see for yourself.
Superdraft Pro and Caesars Entertainment are bringing you the future of fantasy sports. So, if you want to play like a champion or need a break from the family, download Superdraft Pro today. Play like a champion. Information will be in the link below.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Rolling with the Tide. As you may notice, Joey is missing this week. He's normally here. He's feeling a little under the weather, so he told me to go ahead and experiment a little bit and do a little solo show by myself. It's kind of like a podcast. And then in about 20 minutes or so, we'll be joined by special guest Matt Caddell. He's actually here. He can hear me, so hopefully I don't say anything that he disagrees with. Too bad. Hopefully my takes are okay. But, if you have any questions, like I said, it's just going to be me talking about national championship game, my thoughts on the state of Alabama football. Just feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll try to, respond to everyone. So first off, national championship game, right? I know a lot of fans were heartbroken, but I wasn't too, bummed out about it. Honestly, we weren't even supposed to be here this year. If you think about it, like all year, that's what you heard. Oh, this is a rebuilding year for Nick Saban. Oh, all the young players, like you have a sophomore quarterback who ended up winning the Heisman. You have a sophomore defensive end who's supposed to be your best defensive player. Like no one's going to, be able to make it far with that level of talent. So the fact that we made the national championship game in the first place, I think was huge. And I just think it's, if you need another reason why Nick Saban's the GOAT, look no further. Look what he did with basically a depleted roster and a bunch of, true freshmen playing in the game. So I'm happy as well for Kirby Smart in Georgia. I know they're a rival SEC team, but, it is what it is. I think that they deserved it. They've been so close for so long, excuse me. And Kirby is, one of my favorite Nick Saban assistants. He seems like a legitimate class act. After the game, when he was shaking Nick Saban's hand, the only thing he asked was, how's Jamison? And, I think that's a really nice move on his part. He didn't have to do that. I think that injuries obviously played a huge part of the game, right? It's hard to win when you're down 2,700 plus yards of receiving. But I think that anyone that tries to claim injuries, those are the same people that were, making fun of Ohio State last year when they did the same thing. So I'm not going to claim injuries. I think that inexperience is what killed us more than players getting hurt. Yeah, the injuries hurt, but the problem is we didn't have any backups that had any actual playing time. And I think that's just a product of being Alabama, right? Like all your good players leave every year and you got to replace them. And all the good players left, so we didn't have anyone sitting behind them. I think Bryce Young played very well. I mean, his stats didn't wow you, right? He had 1 touchdown pass, 2 interceptions, like 200 something yards. But if you look at some of the throws he was making all game, he was hitting his receivers in the hands over and over and over again. It's just, I don't know how you can play any better than Bryce did with all those drops that he had. And I do think that, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I think that his decision-making on the last drive wasn't great. I'm not going to say he lost the game for the team, but I think that he could have been a little more cautious, but that's, something that you learn with age. Spencer said, after sucking it up and rewatching the game, Bryce Young was putting the ball in the money. They just weren't catching them. I completely agree. I mean, I think Bryce, like I said, threw about as well as he could. And, his receivers were just kind of not making the plays they need to make. I think the defense was good all game. People love to give Pete Golding flack, but the last 2 years he's quietly been a pretty good defensive coordinator. I don't think there's anything super wrong with anything he did. I think they had 1 bad drive all game, and then they had 1 absolutely perfect throw from Stetson Bennett, the throw of his life. And then, my last thoughts on the game, I think, were Ja'Cory Brooks and Ajay Hall had rough games, but all year you hear, you saw Ajay Hall tweeting after games, liking tweets saying his other receivers shouldn't be playing over him. But I was actually encouraged by his tweets for once. After the game, all he said was, I'm sorry, I'll be back better. And that made me, happy. So actually, I lied. We're going to go ahead and bring on Matt right now. So, Matt, thank you for joining us. They can hear you now. I hope, I hope your drive's going well.
Yeah, man, glad to be here, man. You made a lot of valid points. Just, typically Alabama fans, you go through the whole sad and then you go through the whole, congratulating Georgia or whatever, that period. Then you go through the whole. Right now, my phase, I'm in probably phase 3, and that's just, we had a lot of injuries, but we still should have won the game. I mean, I thought we should have. O'Brien, we were running the ball the first drive, and then he called like 30 straight passes. Like Bryce threw the ball like dang near 68 times. Like he ended up with like 57 pass attempts or something like that, which is crazy. But I thought we could have, ran the ball more. I know at one point Brian Robinson could not be stopped, and then he goes back and throws the ball, which I know you get closer to the end zone. It's a little bit more difficult, but shoulda, coulda, woulda, never. After the fact, it's always different. But plays here, like you said, it was just some drops. I was like, Bryce did not play that great of a game. But when I went back to go look at it, he was dropping the ball under some crazy pressure. I'm like hitting guys in the hands, and they were just being execute. So whether that's experience, youth, maybe the stage being too big, or just lack of focus, we've got to be able to, no matter who's picked, next man up, we got to be able to execute and continue to get the game. So those are just my initial thoughts, but yeah.
Dang, you're good. You answered like the first 3 questions I had for you all right there. Gonna ask, what do you think about the game? What do you think about Bill O'Brien? How do you think the young receivers did?
So I'll answer your first question. The first half, you see the teams coming out the locker room, and you hear Bama's like players riled up. Bama still has a psychological advantage over Georgia. It took Georgia 3.5 quarters to really be like, okay, we can beat these guys,
Mm-hmm.
Even with the injuries, we still are a touchdown. I say one touchdown away from really changing that game, putting pressure on Stetson Bennett. I thought Latu, maybe if he had cut across field, maybe more, he would have gotten in zone, maybe he didn't drop that pass. We were 2 touchdowns away from changing the game, literally, because it was just you take away those field goals, even though we lost Jamison Williams, we still were 2 touchdowns away. Some of the red zone calls, I just felt like we should have, ran the ball just because you have to run the ball just to keep the defense honest. I don't care if you don't get nothing but 1 yard or inch or whatever. I thought we could have used more of the jet sweeps because we were throwing screens out there, but I thought we could have used a lot more. Maybe a Christian Leary in motion, kind of get him going. Just a lot of things I thought we could have just capitalized on. But yeah, man, we were just a touchdown just makes such a big difference because even though we still had the advantage. I mean, it was 19-18, and we still had the game, had the chance to win the game and put Georgia away. But credits to Georgia, credits to Kirby. They did what they had to do. They made the plays. They executed. And we didn't make the plays regardless of injuries. But, I think everybody knows, even Kirby will admit, the adversity we went through health-wise. We lost, 3 running backs, 2 starting corners, 2 first-round receivers. Who else? It was a lot of depth. I think we have to address with the training staff and the strength staff. How can we prevent these, injuries, whether it's ankle, knee, ACL? We've got to do a better job, and I'm quite sure that's something Saban is really going to be, focus on this offseason, making sure he can keep his guys healthy. But regardless, I think we still should have won the game. We just lack of execution. I thought we still should have won the game, and I feel like we still had the advantage on Georgia because they didn't wake up to the fourth quarter to really try to put the game away. So that's my thoughts of the game. What was your second question? I forgot. Yes.
Oh, actually, real quick, we had a fan question, which was asking, Matt, why do you think that Alabama didn't use the hurry-up offense more like they did in the first game?
I think it was a lot of factors. I think Georgia was a little bit better prepared. And I think we needed to hurry up offense and run the ball at some point. We hurried up and just kept passing the ball, which really doesn't help you that much. So, like I said, I think I would love to see O'Brien run the ball at least probably 20% more, even though we didn't gain a yard. Sometimes you just have to run the ball, and you never know. One play might just break free, But just to keep the defensive honest and keep them on their heels to respect the run game. And, with that, I don't know if O'Brien's going to be the OC in the future or whatnot, but I feel like a big frustration with the fans was, you look at a Russell Wilson, you look at a Aaron Rodgers, you look at Joe Burrow when he was at LSU, or Josh Allen at the Buffalo Bills. Talented quarterbacks, but at some point you have to utilize your legs. And, I felt like, I don't know if O'Brien did the best job at, preparing Bryce to use his legs. And, when things aren't there, you don't have to force it. Hey, you come off that first read, you get 5 yards or 6 yards. That can help out, open up our offense and really, add a different threat to the defense. So those are some things, I thought I would want to see a little bit more out of Bryce that game because you're down so many weapons. Sometimes you're not going to be able to just sit back there and fling it. They got guys coming, but you might need to get out of there and just try to get as many yards as you can out the pocket and maybe help us, put that stretch on the defense, because that's what we did the first game. I mean, Bryce had a rushing touchdown. He had a key, third down run, things like that. So I feel like if we can really get Bryce to, utilize his legs more when need to, I think that can really open up things with the offense and really help our running game out even more so.
Yeah, so then I had a couple, I had some questions about your time playing at Alabama. So I know your senior year was Nick Saban's first year, correct? 2007?
Yes, Coach Saban's first year, the Beast year.
Yeah, so at the time, could you tell it was the start of something special, or was it just like another coach that came in to replace,
Oh, no, you knew, you knew it was something special. The way he, challenged you mentally, physically, on the field, off the field, just to be your best, be a champion. It took some growing pains. So he, that first year he had to install his program. And, a lot of guys weren't on board. Some were. And, it showed. But, we were able to finish the season with the win against Colorado. And I think that kind of, spurred a lot of momentum going to that next year where they went, undefeated in the SEC. And, eventually lost to Florida in the SEC championship, but the first time. But you can just tell how he just, the values he preaches is, playing 60 minutes, next man up, attention to detail, prepared, executing, all those things that go into a game that helps, whether it's win or lose. We didn't have that before, and so just the most important thing, he really instilled confidence in you to play at a high level and be confident that you prepared in practice, because practice is so hard and all season is so hard that when you get to the game, you're just ready to just fly around and make plays.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, one of your big moments from that game from that year, I guess, I think it was the third game against Arkansas.
Yes.
You probably answer the question a lot about, or get asked about this a lot, but you caught the game-winning touchdown with 9 seconds left. So I was just kind of wondering, what goes through your head during a play like that? Do you even think about that, or do you just go out and catch it and realize afterwards?
You don't, because like I mentioned earlier, because Coach Saban has you prepared for every detail of every game situation. And you practice over and over so much that, when you get to the game, you're able to perform and execute at a high level where you just, to the fans, you're like, man, wow, I would have been so nervous, but, you're so zoned in to, doing your job. And, that's what makes Coach Saban successful. Him and Belichick, you always hear that mantra, do your job, execute, block out the noise, be where your feet are. You hear those things. And those are really good, mental ways to stay focused on the task at hand. And, the Arkansas game, playing the number 15 team with Arkansas, where they had probably one of the best backfields, and, Darren McFadden, all the running backs they did have, for us to come in, be facing an adverse situation, 2 minute drill, we had to drive, touchdown wins the game. The preparation, we prepared, and we were able to execute and get a great victory. And so that was kind of, Coach Saban's first signature win, where people were like, wow, we finally won a fourth quarter game. And, you start to believe in yourself. And I believe that just really kicked it off for the Bama Nation and the teams that, we're going to be prepared. We're going to be able to win these fourth quarter games. This is a new, different regime where, you've got something special going on with Coach Saban in Alabama.
And then it's impossible to talk about the 2007 season without talking about the controversy that came with it. There's 5 wins vacated by the NCAA that season. So I was just kind of wondering, as a player, what's it like going through an NCAA investigation, sanctions, and having 5 of your teammates suspended for the season?
It's just, you can only, one thing, back to Coach Saban, you can only control what you can't control. So I just remember I think it started, we lost those 5 players versus night before Tennessee. I think the day of, and Coach Saban was like, hey, we won't be playing these 5 players for the rest, for I don't know how long. They're going to be suspended indefinitely. We got Tennessee, a big game, big rivalry game. And he was like, guys going to have to step up and play, and that's it. I don't want to hear anything about it, and we're going to have to just go out there and execute. And we went out there, and I think we beat Tennessee like 41-17, which is crazy. But that just goes to show you how, next man up, preparation, having that mindset to dominate and execute. Everybody's got to do their job, no matter what, the outside noise or circumstances. You can't control them anyway. You can't worry about it anyway, but we still have a task and job at hand to do. And so I just remember that, and we ended up beating Tennessee. But things we could control, we didn't worry about. But, it is what it is. I don't know how many people remember the vacated wins, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But at the moment, we were just focusing on, the next man up, stepping up, and do what we got to do to help try to win some games.
So you say it's not that big of a deal, but like the Arkansas game that we were talking about was one of the ones that was vacated. How does it feel like having your big moment kind of officially taken away from you by the NCAA? Like they can't take away that it happened, but.
Nah, I mean, they don't even. I mean, fans and everybody, they don't even care. They're like, I don't think. I mean, hey, who's thinking about the NCAA? I mean, like, let's be real. They're kind of been a laughing stock for so long. But I never thought about it like, oh, the vacated win. People still talk about how crazy and loud, the stadium was. And I don't even think people even remember the vacation and all that stuff. So, no, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, life still goes on, and I hadn't even thought about it until you brought it up, to be honest. Like, that just show you how I never thought. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. So we have another question from our fan Spencer. He said, after seeing some of the names that entered the transfer portal during the game, namely, I assume he's talking about Billingsley, do you think that these players may not have given it their all during the game? Like, do you think they were mentally checked out already?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest head scratcher was Billingsley. I mean, I don't know what was going on. I know he was kind of in the doghouse. I mean, I just remember him coming off last year. You were like, man, this guy's, everybody watching Kyle Pitts and the year he had, everybody was like, man, this guy can have that type of impact, next year. We just knew he was going to be that type of player, and I don't know, he just was not mature, some off the field issues, but he was just, I don't know, he was just not giving effort. I mean, I was watching the game, and it was certain plays, I'm like, it's not even look like he's not even running, giving 100%, running full speed. It's like he's just kind of going out there kind of nonchalant. So, to kind of see him, in the transfer portal, I mean, you look at our 19 compared to Georgia's 19. That Bowers guy, I mean, he gives it all. I mean, he doesn't have nowhere near the height and athleticism as Jaleel Billingsley, but man, he plays with a lot of heart and gives a lot of effort out there to really help his team win. And I feel like that's something that I didn't think Billingsley gave it his all, which I thought, the potential that he had. So, I wish him the best, but yeah, that was one of my biggest head scratcher moments because I mean, I just knew he was going to be a big time weapon for us this year, and just didn't quite, reach to his max potential. But yeah, I mean, we got a couple guys in the portal, but it is what it is. It's just the name of the game these days, and it's college football free agency. You wish the guys the best, but I was a little surprised at the Drew Saunders and maybe Moody or Shane Lee, but it is what it is. We live in an age where people want to play now, and they kind of don't want to wait, or they want their time now. So I wish the players the best, and I hope they have great careers.
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, that's just kind of the way that the landscape is now. So for reference, your senior year, your quarterback, John Parker Wilson, threw for 2,800 yards, 18 touchdowns in 13 games. Bryce Young this year threw for 4,872 and 47 touchdowns in, I believe, 14 games. And so how does Nick Saban and Alabama maintain this dominance throughout the changing landscape? I mean, they went from defensive struggles to high-scoring offenses to transfer portals and NIL deals.
Yeah, I think it just starts with Coach Saban. I mean, Saban's always kind of ahead of the game, and whatever he's going to do, he's going to use it as an advantage. And people are, they always try to say, "Oh, Saban, whenever he says stuff, there, people in the comments or whatever are always going to say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about." But then when he takes advantage of the transfer portal and you get like a Toatoa or Jamison Williams or a Jamar Gibbs, then it's like, oh, he tried to warn y'all back in the day, it's free agency what you want. But it just goes to show you that Coach Saban is, he knows how to adjust. He's at the top of the game. He's always one of those coaches that are just one of those leaders that is always, he's self-evaluating himself, his program, and he's just trying to see how can he keep things fresh and new. And you get so many different challenges out there, whether it's transfer portal, NIL, the spread offense, whatever. He tries to stay ahead of the game. And I think the way, even watching Kirby, kind of just run the ball kind of old school and win the national championship, won't be surprised if Coach Saban tries to go back to some of those things where, we're going to have a stacked running back room next year. So I won't be surprised if, Bryce going to have big games, but I think Saban at the end of the day wants to be able to, control the game, be able to run the ball, throw when he needs to, and, just be able to be dominant in the trenches and definitely have an effective running game. And, it showed in that fourth quarter how Georgia kind of out-Bama, Bama in the fourth quarter, just running it down our throats. So I'm quite sure that's something that's going to stick with Coach Saban, and I won't be surprised if he, O'Brien's the OC, that he makes sure that we, at the end of the day, run the ball and run it effectively and run it at will. So, I think that's one thing Coach Saban's kind of going to remember and utilize in the future.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, one last question we had from our good friend Spencer. He said, on a positive note, Matt, what do you think Bama is going to do next season with all this experience they gained in the national championship game?
Wow, just to see the guys come off the field and crying and, upset and, having a big loss like that, that's out of all the wins that they had and all the successes, like the losses is what's, you kind of really remember. And that's kind of what's, what grows you as a person. But, Coach Saban, I'm quite sure, is going to have those guys remember it and use it as motivation and use it as a motivation for the leadership team. Like, hey, we had a lot of young guys, and you're just going to look at, quite sure, the leaders, the captains, Will Anderson and Bryce, and they're going to utilize it to, to their benefit to really, not be in that situation again and be prepared for, just total dominance and execution. No matter who we're playing, whether it's Georgia or whoever, we've got to be able to execute and dominate and make sure that we're just at the top of our game for 60 minutes or 4 quarters, no matter who we're playing. And I think Alabama's going to, really be dominant next year and going to have a lot of young guys. And I think one thing Coach Saban won't have to worry about is the mindset and the leadership for the team next year, because those guys are going to, utilize this as that motivating where they don't ever want to have that experience, and they're going to want to experience, finishing at the top. So I expect big things for the Crimson Tide next year, starting with the big game versus Texas. So I'm kind of already turning the page and just excited to get things started for next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matt, that's all I wanted to ask. So thank you so much for joining us. But before you go, tell the people where they can find you, like what you've been up to, anything you want to share.
Yeah, man. You can reach me on Twitter, mcaddell6. Matt Caddell at mcaddell6. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, just plain old Matthew Caddell. So, yeah, reach out to me, man. You want to talk ball or whatever, or, I'm always there to give a roll tide. So, yeah, just always just excited, just like every other Bama fan, just kind of waiting just to see what the spring training is going to look like, and can't wait for A-Day to see, how these guys look and how some of the new faces look. So I'm excited, and tough loss for the Tide, but I think that's going to make us that much better next year's season.
Yes. On behalf of me and the CTS Sports Room and our fan Spencer, thank you for everything, and I hope you have a safe drive. Thanks.
All right, thank you, man. All right, roll Tide. Y'all take care.
Roll Tide. So thanks again for Matt for joining us. We have a few minutes. Our next show, Bama Brigade, isn't till 8 Eastern, 7 Central. It's kind of confusing for me. I'm in Central Time. So I'll talk a little bit more about the game and my personal thoughts on it. Well, so I guess transfers, right? Spencer talked about transfers earlier. I wanted to hit on those. Paul Tyson was one of the first names to enter the transfer portal. It's expected. He wasn't going to get any playing time. He was our 4th string quarterback after Ty Simpson. He could be decent. A lot of people were saying he only got the role because he was Bear Bryant's grandson, but that's not true. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and I think he has potential. Just not at Alabama. He's definitely behind Bryce. He's definitely behind Jalen Milroe. He's definitely going to be behind Ty Simpson. So it makes sense. I wasn't surprised. Jaleel Billingsley, we were kind of talking about him earlier, but he was my biggest disappointment out of anyone on the roster this year. He was so good with Mac Jones last year, and then he was, kind of in Nick Saban's doghouse all season. And when he did play, he absolutely did not make the most of it. He slipped on the one route he got thrown at in the national championship game, got beat repeatedly on blocks. It just seemed like he was putting in zero effort. It was just kind of disappointing. And I know his father was all over Twitter tweeting about how, you just have to trust the process, trust Nick Saban and all this. But I don't know if his son bought in as much as he did. So it hurts, because I thought he was going to be, the next O.J. Howard, the next Irv Smith Jr., but he just leaves as a bunch of untapped potential. And then Drew Sanders, this one is the one that hurts me the most, I think. He played really well replacing Chris Allen after Chris Allen got hurt. And then Drew Sanders got hurt, and Dallas Turner took over, true freshman. The true freshman won the role. He's playing really well. I get it from Drew Sanders' perspective. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. And, why would you want to play backup when you could start at bunch of other schools? So I get it, but it does hurt our depth, and I think he is a good player. Some other players that left. Jamison Williams, he went to the draft. I hope his ACL tear heals, but we were very lucky to have him for this season, and I'm glad he was able to, transfer from Ohio State, put a productive year, and be a first-round receiver. He was, I think, the number 6 overall player on Mel Kiper's board, which is very impressive. I don't know how much he's going to fall, but I hope he doesn't fall too far in the draft. Neal, This is a no-brainer. I mean, he's the best left tackle we've had maybe ever. I mean, he's 6'7", like 360 pounds, and can jump like 6 feet in the air. Guy's a monster, and he deserves to go get his money. He's probably a top 3 pick. Chris Allen, he got hurt. I could have seen him coming back for another year, but I mean, he's put enough tape that he'll go in the first 2 rounds. He's good. He's not Will Anderson, and Dallas Turner probably looks like he might be better than him, but he'll definitely get drafted decently high. And so I think he should go get his money. I'm always in favor of players getting their money when possible. So, Phil Mathis, he severely underrated here. I think that he's going to be a steal for whoever drafts him. Coming off like the hype of, Quinnen Williams, Daron Payne, he was always the guy behind them, but he just does his job, man. He's a force. He is a monster. And Josh Jobe also declared for the draft. He got a lot of flack this year, but he was actually pretty good throughout his career when he was healthy. I think that injuries kind of soured a lot of people's opinion on him because he was playing injured, trying to play through injuries, and then he would get burnt, and people were like, oh, he's not that good. But, he is pretty good. He's a solid player. Some potential players that might stay another year. That's pretty exciting. Cameron Latu, I saw that he was expected to stay another year, which is good. He's a solid tight end for us, but he definitely doesn't have the athleticism to make up for his drop problems and his concentration problems in the NFL. So stay another year, work on your technique. I mean, he was a linebacker coming out of high school, so I get it. John Mechie might stay. I see him leaving. I think he probably will leave because he's going to be in the 2nd or 3rd round probably. But he could come back a la Devontae Smith and try to be like the number 1 receiver taken. That worked out really well for Devontae, so I wouldn't hate it for John Mechie. Henry Toatoa and Christian Harris, I feel like one of the 2 of them is definitely gone, and I think that's probably Christian Harris. And then, he's had a great game at the best possible time in the national championship against the best team in the country, so I think that's going to really help him. But Henry Toatoa, he's been good. He's left me a little disappointed at times. He takes some bad routes to the ball. He's not the best in coverage, but, I think we might just be spoiled watching previous Alabama middle linebackers. And then Jordan Battle, I think he should probably go. I think that he will do well at the combine. I think that he'll be one of the top safeties taken. But also the fact that we haven't heard anything about him means that, he might not be liking what he's hearing, and he might come back for another year. But he's our best safety. Be good for Alabama, but I think that he should probably go to the draft. And finally, my outlook for next year. We heard Matt's, and I'm sure Matt's means a lot more than mine because he actually, played football and the college and professional level. I stopped after 2 years of high school. But I believe that will be better next year. An extra year of experience for a lot of our key players is going to be huge when they're that young. The difference between being a true freshman starting in your first big game than being a sophomore with a year of work and a year of learning the system, and also even just expecting to play, is going to be a lot more impactful for these guys like Ajay Hall, Ja'Cory Brooks, Christian Leary. And then finally, I think that transfers like Eli Ricks and Jahmyr Gibbs have me the most excited of any players that are coming in. I know people love to talk about recruits that are coming in, but I think that the transfers are going to be huge because they already have 2 years of solid tape. They're already established. We know they're good, right? A recruit could pan out, they could not. We have tape saying that Eli Ricks is an All-American. Jahmyr Gibbs is number 3 in the nation in total yards this year. So, and you look at Jamison Williams, Henry Toatoa, they show you can come to Alabama, you can transfer here for a year and ball out. So I'm really excited for them. And I think that with a more experienced team, a more established team, I think that we're going to go really far. We made it to the national championship game in a rebuilding year. So can only predict, we're going to go back next year, hopefully. We'll see. So, Spencer said, great job solo tonight, sir. Thank you so much, Spencer. I know we always appreciate all your comments and, gives us something to talk about, and we always appreciate you here. So that's going to be it from me tonight, but I'll be back in about 20 minutes with Bama Brigade with Joe, Will, and Clack. where I'll have some other people to bounce it off. Oh, and we also do have a special guest. Let me make sure I get that right. We get former Alabama player, wide receiver Nikita Stover coming on to talk with us around 7:45 Central. So be sure to check it out. Be sure to bring some questions for him. As always, I'm Tyler. I won't be here next week. We'll be filling in another person, but Joe will and Joey will be here same time.